Welcome back to another episode of Baxter's Buzz. I am your host, Baxter E. Hall. We are recording So What's the Question um, episode today with my co-host, Tiana Starks.
Hello.
Hello. So What's the Question is something that was comprised in 2018, really around trying to get into the nuance of things, trying to stay away from hot takes, and just trying to actually add some, travel down a couple of layers and not get completely granular, but kind of nerd out and do what we would do even if we weren't recording. So, what's the question is the title because we tend to go on tangents and we have to figure out how to kind of bring it back home and sort of wrap things up. So I'm super excited to have you back, and let's jump into it.
For
Um,
sure.
so we were talking off air, and I was gonna say something. I decided to just to wait and kind of mention it to you, sort of live, right, while we were recording. I feel like this week, especially, we've been just really aligned. Just some of our maybe it started at the end of last week. We had a couple of conversations, like our text messages, and and then yesterday morning, you had sent me a text saying good morning, like I feel great, like I just worked out and I feel amazing, and I'm like I just worked out, like, and so it was like it started last week, but it felt like yesterday it was like it made complete sense. Like, of course you did, because literally I was kind of on the same type of emotional kind of high. It felt like you were. So I was like, man, we really like, you know, in aligned and in lockstep. This is that the word? Lockstep.
Yeah.
Yeah. This this week, and we have business aside from our personal stuff that we've been working on, and we've been collaborating that way. So it's just been lot of good energy between us two. So it's yeah, it's been. I mean, I don't know if you've been as sensitive to it or picked up on it like that, but
Um, I don't know. I don't
mm,
think I have. I just,
yeah, just doing what you do.
yeah.
But we talked about working out, and it was important for you. I mean, these were some of the topics that you wanted to discuss today, right? Was
Yeah.
sort of the importance of it.
Yeah. I don't know why this morning I was just thinking about how your physical health is like so important. It's so you can't do anything without being a healthy person. And like I am a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. A part of our oath mentions the importance of physical health. And I remember learning it, and this was 15 years ago. Wow.
Wow.
um, I remember learning it and being like, oh, it's interesting that they put that in there. But not really like valuing it
You
as
were like, I'm
much.
skinny. That's cool, right?
Pretty much. I mean, I was like, okay, I guess. I mean, I don't know. But now I guess that I'm older and I'm just more, I was on a dance team. I didn't have to do a lot in order to be physically active because that was just a part of my regular life. I didn't have to plan it. I had to go to practice for dance or whatever. But
Right.
now, like just making sure that I um, am taking care of myself is so important because I just feel so much better. A couple of months ago, I think I told you I hired a virtual personal trainer. His name is Lou. He can be found on Facebook under Lou Hef, by the way. He's awesome. Anyway, so he kind of was like, okay, these are the things that you need to do, and you need to make sure that you're eating better. And in general, I don't eat bad. I don't think, like, I cook most of our meals and we don't eat bad, but there was a point in time where we were eating out a lot. And I just have been thinking about, like, I notice a difference in how I feel from, this was a couple of years ago before we moved here, but because we had a lot of restaurants near our house, and Kennedy had gymnastics late, and it was just easy to stop by Wendy's or whatever.
Right.
But it weighs you down so much, and not just physically, but mentally. Like, it's just not good for you. And so I've been eating lately. I haven't been eating as much meat. I've only been eating meat at night, like for dinner. And I don't know, I just feel good. Been working out, and it's just better.
Yeah. So I kind of, so during the past, so I've never been a runner ever. I like to get my cardio, like playing basketball, and just running for the sake of running. It's like, nah, like I'd rather jump rope or something like that. But at the beginning of the pandemic, I decided I needed to get outside and run. So I started running almost every day. I kind of had set a goal for myself. I think it was in May, when I got out there. And just like, not just like opening up your lungs, but like it kind of opens up your brain, like your mind. And I really feel like the my new job, uh, part of it was that I was open to it. Like literally, like my mind was sort of open to these ideas. So if you get out and run for 15, 20 minutes, especially at the beginning of quarantine, when everyone was here and you were still trying to figure out where to set up the office, and I didn't have my office set up yet, so I was working in the dining room. So I was like, okay, all right, let me get up, um and so as it got deeper into the summer, it was a little more difficult to run, and then there's so many deer around here. We kind of surprised each other a couple of times, like in the morning, and they kind of shook me, and so I ain't really wanted to go outside anymore.
You know that the deer will run with you, though? They won't bother you, but they will run with you.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. That's cool. Like I don't want any parts of that. So like, cause I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, I ordered a treadmill, which we had talked about. The wife and I had talked about getting anyway. So I'm like, it's the perfect time to get a treadmill. And long and short, this treadmill come, and I hardly use it. So it's funny that you said what you said yesterday. I started back on the treadmill on Friday, the Friday after Thanksgiving. And it was like, okay, it's time to kind of get back going. Yesterday was my first day not being as sore. And I was just thinking about, uh, damn, I hate that I stopped. It felt so good. I felt so like invigorated, and I was ready to go. Like I was literally, I was dropping Bryce off at school at like 8:30. I got a phone call, and I was already sort of ready to conduct any sort of business. Like I was just already on top of my game. And there's something about sort of that commitment that you make to yourself, where you can kind of it, it allows you to pat yourself on the back. And for me, it creates a momentum similar to when I'm recording on a pod. It's like I'm doing something that I committed to doing, and now it's like, now what's next? is really the energy that I typically have after completing some of those tasks. So
I think also, I mean, it's just like working out does something chemically in your brain. I don't know. I'm not a doctor or a scientist, so this is just assumption. I'm sure I could probably find something to back this knowledge up.
yeah, for sure.
But like there's a distinct difference for me in my level of productivity when I'm working out and when I'm not working out. Like even when it comes to like making sure that the house is put together or whatever it is, like if there's something that I have to do when I'm working out and when I'm not working out, sure, that'll get done. But like all the rest of the stuff, I might be like, we'll see.
Yeah.
But when I'm consistently working out, I just have more energy. Like I have more stamina. So
Yeah, it's weird because it feels counterintuitive.
yeah.
And we've talked about this, I don't know, maybe the last time, maybe a year ago or so, where we were like, dang, if you could just get the energy to work out, you're going to get more energy. Like, it's like an investment. Like, there's going to be a return on it, but you just got to, like, get up the energy to start that process again.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, because this is how things have been aligned. A friend of mine, she sent me a message today, and she was saying, she was saying that I was inspiring her to kind of get back physically back in shape. But what she also said was when she hasn't been able to balance her mental health with her physical health. She felt like the last year or so, she's been much more mentally um, in a good space, but physically, it's suffered. And then the prior year or so, a year and a half prior, she was much more active physically and felt like her mental wasn't necessarily sort of in great shape. Like, do you feel like that there's, like, we talked about the correlation, and it was interesting to me that she talked about sort of like this either or.
Um, no, for me, it's always correlated. It's always on the same path. Like if I'm feeling good physically, it's a good chance that I'm doing good. And like I said, whenever I am not working out, I feel like I'm more susceptible. That's how you say that. To I don't know, like laziness or depression or whatever it may be.
Hmm. And I hadn't spent a lot of time processing what she said, but as we talk about it, I'm wondering, because she, has two children, young children, like we both do, and I wonder if physically, um, I wonder if there's like any guilt there to, like, because, so I wonder if part of it is like some guilt, maybe. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking out loud, or taking care of herself. She said she doesn't think she has the bandwidth to do both, and I think that maybe if you take an hour or two for yourself, she does a lot. She was doing a lot of walking. She's also doing some aerobic classes or some cardio type classes. Maybe there's like this guilt there because there's all these other things that you could be doing with that time. I don't know, but they definitely feel connected to me, and more correlated when I'm doing one. I feel much more on top of everything else.
Interesting. I mean, I think you should ask her so I can know what she says.
Yeah, she
About
listens to the podcast, so um, I don't, let me know what you think, buddy.
okay. Because like, I mean, definitely like as a mom, for me, working out, it's more than just the investment in working out. Like I have to make sure that I get up 3 hours earlier than everybody else in my house and really dedicate that time to myself. Um, and so that it's not taking away from the rest of the day and everything else that has to be done. So I can see like what you said makes sense, because you have to, for me, I think that as a mom, you have to schedule that time, especially a working mom, um, when it's not going to conflict with everybody else's schedule and all the other stuff that you have to do.
Yeah, yeah. Salute to all the moms out there that are, balancing all these different things because it's not easy, and, just that responsibility and that pressure you guys put on yourselves, and the expectations that we have of you are many times unfair. So salute to all the mamas out there.
Thanks.
So this week has been an interesting week because of the holiday, sort of the holiday hangover. Um, I finally got back on track on Wednesday, where I started to feel like myself again.
Maybe we are really in sync.
See?
Because that was the same. I mean, I texted you yesterday. I was like getting back on track.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure we're not the only ones, but I tell you what, if it wasn't for, I didn't want to talk about food anymore, or whatever. But if it wasn't for my intermittent fasting saving me from myself and those leftovers, like I don't know what kind of shape I would be in, like literally, because I was really only eating one meal, for like like each day after Thanksgiving. It was like I would eat late, and that would be it. Like I didn't need to eat anymore. And so I'm like, whoo, thank goodness I, started this at 12:30 today or 1 and not like 10 eating dressing in macaroni and cheese. Like that could cause for not so productive day. But yeah, definitely Wednesday is when I kind of felt like I kind of hit my stride and was kind of back in the saddle. One of the things that I talked about this week is on the podcast was about efficiency versus effectiveness. And you made a comment that was like right, like just what you needed to hear, or something along those lines. Like when you think about those, had you ever looked at like the difference between like efficient, like that they could actually be different things, and kind of what did you what resonated with you?
Um, yeah, I mean, I've read a lot of personal development things, so I'm familiar, with the concept, but it resonated with me just because there are many days, I'm going to say probably about 7 days every month where
I think I said 7 days every week.
right.
Yeah.
That I feel like I look up and it's 5 or 6 o'clock and I'm like, what have I done all day? Like, I've been doing things, but like, what have I actually accomplished on today? Like, was it the right things? And I'm pretty diligent about creating a schedule for myself, making lists and prioritizing the things that need to get done. But sometimes I just don't do them. And those days suck because, you know, I was spent all day and it's like, but it feels like a waste still.
See, we're kind of like two sides of the same coin in some instances, because like I I've had a lot of administrative work to do, and that's like the stuff I put off. So like the idea piece of it, and those like high level like meetings where we're bouncing ideas and we're planning. I love that. And it's like, okay, well, now we gotta put some action to it. I'm like, ah man, you know. And so although they get done, whenever I'm into that and I'm like, okay, I just gotta knock out these things, I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like I haven't had enough good conversations, or I haven't had enough of those sessions where I'm building with my people and like gaining that like inspiration. And so sometimes I feel like there's a sense of like accomplishment once these things get done, for sure. But then there's always like this weird thing where it's like, damn, I feel like it was something else I was supposed to do today, and it just wasn't as you know, like I'm big on like the human contact, you know.
I was just, you know, listening to these blinks on Blinkist. I can't remember the book, but I did actually save it because I want to buy the actual book and read it. I have to go back and look, but it was talking about the types of people that you need in order to make a project successful, right? And, you know, obviously you need an ideas person, and you need a person, I can't remember exactly the terms that they use, but you need like a execution person. And like most people are one or the other, or there's a person they call like somewhere in the middle who is able to do both. But anyway, I'm a very much the execution person, like the ideas and stuff. Like I, you know, I can come up with ideas if I'm forced to, but that's not what my sweet spot. Like that, you know, I am, okay, that's a fantastic idea. Now this is how we're going to implement it in order to get it done. Whereas the book was saying that ideas people, they have a ton of ideas, but a lot of times they never come to fruition because they don't have that execution part. And so I think it's really important and interesting. And I love that. And I think one of the reasons that I decided I was going to buy it is because my partner is very much on the other side. She has tons of ideas, and which are fantastic and great, but I kind of, you know, ground us in, okay, so what are our action items? And she brings, you know, good stuff to the table that we should be doing.
Well, I think when you guys initially, you know, when you guys had your own companies, you talked about kind of getting together probably a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, that we had a conversation a couple of years ago, and she was ready then, but I was like, we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think there's something to be said for like really recognizing your strengths, right? And if as you grew into your role as like business owner, you know, there's things that we love to do that, you know, there's like these boxes where it's like there's this level of stuff that like we really enjoy doing. And then there's a box of like things that we're really good at.
Yeah.
And some things you're really good at, you don't enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And some things you're, you know, and some things you are really good at, you do enjoy doing. And then there's these things that you don't enjoy doing, or you're not really good at. And so, yeah, you got to kind of, you know, do sort of an analysis on yourself and figure out, okay, where's my time best used?
Yeah, that's so
And as a
important.
and as a boss like yourself, right? It's like, okay, you bring certain things to the table, and then the other things, it probably makes sense to bring someone else in for those things, so you can be like that best like version of yourself. And like, you know, we don't need, the dirty work, the rebounds and defense. Like, you gonna come in and shoot. If you're spending time trying to do these other things, you're less effective, and we're not getting the best, use out of you, right? So you bring folks in on your team to do that. And um it's important to be honest with yourself as far as where you stand with that stuff. Another uh conversation that I had uh, this week was around sort of bringing yourself to the table, right? So we've talked about it, imposter syndrome. We've talked about um, just having faith in yourself. I mentioned it earlier in the earlier pod. Was like, it's like everybody has these same recipes, but everyone makes them just a tad bit different. And it's important that you keep your seasoning, that you take your seasoning with you, so that people know, oh, that's Tiana's dish right there. That's what she does, right? It doesn't mean everybody's gonna love it, but that doesn't mean that the people that love it will can be completely in love with it, because it's you. Um, Go ahead.
I was gonna say my one of the first lessons I learned as a employee, my old supervisor said, like, one of the very first things he ever said to me, like, this was the first week of me working my very first professional job that was gonna be my career. He was like, you need to find something that you can do that nobody else can do. And that is what's going to make you um, valuable. I get, to the company. Basically everybody is expendable, but you need to find your thing and do it well enough that, or better than other people can do.
That's funny. I'm gonna tell you why. You probably don't even remember this. You gave me some similar advice, uh, but it was about dating.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And you said, like, yeah, like, you're cool, but like, what? How are you setting yourself apart from everybody else? I'm thinking you giving me some game that you just kind of you was stealing it from your boss, man. But it
Maybe
was
I was. I
super.
don't know.
But no, but it was like, it was a great question, and it was like, yeah, like, I probably do appear, if we're all dating, there may be a couple of other young men courting this same young lady, right? So what am I doing that's different, right? And if I'm not, then I probably need to figure it out. And yeah, you can. I mean, you've given me a few.
This, how long ago was that though? That had to be like,
How long have you been in corporate America?
listen,
You've been in corporate America. You've been in the workforce longer than you think, but we'll talk about that later. But that was some solid advice. In contrast, so me being at Kaepernick Insurance and working with companies, like people tend to try to find a niche, right? So they're like, find your niche as far as the companies that you want to work with, the industries. So you can not only learn the department, but you can kind of understand, you kind of talk their language, and hopefully it's something that you can kind of become your bread and butter. So, and that's a lot of the advice that I've got has been find your niche. And then my mentor is like, she's like, let your niche find you. Like, you just work, and eventually you'll start to see where your book of business lands. And there so my mentor says, let your niche find you. Don't worry about trying to find a niche. You just work with as many companies, help as many companies out as possible, and then maybe that niche will sort of find you. I think that there's benefits in both approaches, but as we always try to do, Tiana, we need to figure out so what's the question this week?
We've been kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
So what's the question? I guess for me, I'm really in a take care of yourself space. So the question is like, how can you do anything else if you're not physically healthy and capable?
Yeah. This workshop that we're working on through work, one of the things I'm going to talk about is wellness, but so because you mentioned that a couple of different times, physically is what we typically think about when it comes to wellness, but also like a mental health is super important as well. And so if you're lacking in any of those departments, financial health, right? They those things bleed over. They don't just stay in their lane. If you're mentally not well, it can impact you physically, and then maybe you're doing some retail therapy instead of seeing a real therapist. Right now, financially you're not in the right spot. I think another question is, how do we ensure that we're in a good headspace? Like, how do we make sure that we're like, is there a diagnostic check to make sure like our diet is right, that we're getting the right amount of exercise, we're drinking the right amount of water? Like, are people paying enough attention to the way they feel when they're eating certain things? When they're talking to certain people and they like, man, every time I talk to this person, it's like I don't feel great, versus, man, whenever I talk to such and such, like I feel fantastic, I feel inspired. Like, everything we put into our mental, our bodies, like all of it is important, the way we take care of it, because it's all connected.
Yeah, I don't want to, a lot of things came up for me when you were talking. I don't want to get too deep into it. Maybe we can talk about it another time, but I made my first appointment with the therapist last week, And she was asking me all these questions. And kind of at the end of the session, I was like, so am I all right?
Am I fixed?
But she was like, what I took from it was, you seem fine to me. Like, you don't seem like why, I don't know what the purpose, like what your purpose was for reaching out in the first place. Like, you're doing good. I mean, she didn't say that, but that's how I interpreted like her response. And then I started to think like, I don't know. Like I said, it's a lot of things that came up for me. I started to think like, well, maybe I was giving her the corporate version of my answers, or is it something wrong that I think, I mean, not that I think something's wrong, but that I think I should be seeing a therapist and I shouldn't be? Am I being influenced by all of these outside forces telling me everyone should see a therapist? Anyway, just a lot of things.
Well, I think it talks about that diagnostic check. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with making sure that you need to be reset sometimes and sort of recalibrated. And sometimes you need some major repairs, and those things happen too, right? So I think the main thing is just being open to it, right? We started the conversation about like just being open. We need to be open to improving, open to seeking help, and open to offering help to others, man. Let's end on this. The number of suicides since the pandemic is up, like has increased over 200%. And I just think that we need to make sure that the people that we don't hear from, that are strong friends, we need to check on them as well, and make sure that everybody is, because we're already sort of isolated, and it could go from like true depression like more quickly because the lack of human contact and us being in our heads. So like, take care of yourselves, but also take care of your people. Check in on your people, man. Pick up the phone. They may need to hear your voice, and maybe the text message isn't good enough. So until next time, thanks for checking us out. And this was good. I feel like we stumbling on a couple of the topics, but maybe next week we can kind of dive into some other things.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool.
Oh, also, do you like I'm trying to get my office together.
No, I love it. Tell me,
like my girl.
What is that? Who is that?
Well, the name of the print from wherever I bought it online. I'm one of those people who's been just my quarantine spending has been outrageous. But anyway, it's called Carefree, and it feels carefree. I like it. Carefree Black girl.
That's that should be an aspiration for us all, man. Is to live a little bit more carefree, a little bit more in the moment. I was looking at that photo or that painting thinking, man, if I record a podcast from over there, I gotta take that down. I can't, that's not, I mean, I love it for you, but that ain't my style. All right, thanks again. And yeah, let's try to do this again next week, man.
Cool.
All right. Peace.
Okay.